Well, it wasn't a Lions victory yesterday. It was another defeat. The Lions are 0-3 after losing on the road 24-10 to the Minnesota Vikings. Brett Favre has never, ever lost to the Lions in a home game for Brett Favre. It was all yesterday. And, it was the Lions tight end, Tony Scheffler, who says the Lions just keep making too many mistakes on offense.
Yeah, we keep getting ourselves in good positions. Third and long on the defensive side of the ball, and third and short on the offensive side of the ball, and whether it be a penalty or a misoperation or one thing or another, we aren't getting those plays, those calls, those bounces going our way right now.
And cornerback Chris Houston says the Lions just have to learn how to finish off games.
We always have teams down, but we never finish, and that's the biggest thing that we got to do is finish. That's the last 3 weeks, and we've been coming up with losses. We just got to learn how to finish.
Detroit Lion veteran Ken Dallafior, who played for the Steelers, the Lions, and the Chargers. So if you look at his NFL record, he was 1-2 yesterday. If you look at his alma mater teams, and then, of course, he played for the Michigan Panthers, too. He is now a senior vice president of group sales and corporate marketing for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, was watching yesterday, and I suppose shaking his head. Good morning, Ken.
Hey, good morning, Michael. My head is still shaking. It's unbelievable what we can do.
We were in it for a while, though. It was fairly competitive in the first half.
Yeah, it really was. We started out putting pressure on Favre. Defense played really tough. And we ran the ball well. It took a turn for the worse when we had the mistake on the special teams. We fumbled the punt, and all of a sudden the next play they throw a touchdown pass.
Yeah,
Game shifted right there.
That's what happens. Dropping a punt is about the worst thing I think you can do in the league because it almost always leads to points.
Oh, absolutely. The field position, and the Vikings did right with it. They went to the end zone with the very next offensive play, and my gosh, a wide open receiver. Favre hits him, touchdown.
Speaking of some of the other teams you played for, Charlie Batch yesterday, after 11 years in the league, was the big star at Pittsburgh. He was the fourth-string quarterback, and he had himself a heck of a day.
He did. He led him. He kept him. I think he only had 17 passes, but he had 2 touchdowns. He had 2 INTs. But Charlie Batch stepped up, character guy, and delivered for the Steelers. And maybe they're not missing Roethlisberger as much as they think over there.
Of course, he's a former Lion from Eastern Michigan University. Tell me, Javid Best at the moment seems to be the big bright spot on the team, but as exciting as he is, Calvin Johnson is disappointing, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm disappointed in Calvin Johnson or the coordinator for not getting him the ball more often. He seems to come in and out of games. And at big times we try to go to him. You would think we would consistently put him in the game plan throughout the entire game. But, yeah, he's been a little disappointing. Best has been very impressive. Unfortunately, it sounds like he's got a bit of a toe injury. Hopefully that recovers quickly.
They like to throw the ball to him. And when it comes to Calvin Johnson, though, I swear I saw him dog it. On that, maybe you saw it too. He was in the end zone, and the ball was maybe a little bit overthrown, and he just sort of put his hand up and then kind of quit on it. And I thought that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to leap up in the air and get the ball, isn't he?
He's supposed to be the guy that changes his clothes in the phone booth and makes those plays. I know how you feel, and I wouldn't want to be critical of him as a player, but yeah, we gave you that impression. But I find that hard to believe, but. I'd rather not believe it. How's that, Michael?
Yeah, well, I hope you're right, though. What do you think about Sean Hill? He threw for 237, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
I think he's gotten better each week. There seems to be more zip on his passes. And unfortunately, he threw a bad pass when we had about 2 minutes left in the game, and we went down and he threw the interception in the end zone. Mm-hmm. And then they come back down the field again right at the end of the game, and that interception went off the receiver's hands. It was a good ball, but he's played well. But sure would love to see Matthew Stafford back in the lineup and see what he can do and take this team behind his leadership, see where it goes.
I'm glad you mentioned that because when Matthew Stafford does come back, isn't it going to be sort of a learning curve all over again? Isn't he going to be sort of, like he's starting the season again because he's hadn't been able to play or anything like that?
I think it's going to be some of that, and because he's younger and he's not a seasoned veteran, if you will. But I think Matthew's really engaged, and a lot of times, believe it or not, standing on the sideline sometimes will give you a different perspective, and maybe that'll carry some positive results. But yeah, there could be that risk of him coming back and having a slow start, getting back into his groove, if you will.
You know, I noticed when you and I watched the game in Detroit against Philadelphia, Matthew Stafford was up in the booth watching from above. Although at Minnesota, I saw him on the sideline. What's the difference in perspective, you think?
Well, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't have been surprised if they kept him up in the booth to give him that perspective, and then after that, getting him back on the field, so he's closer to the action, closer to his teammates. That's a really important aspect. And then, maybe that first week too, maybe Matthew was in a sling or something like that, and they just didn't want to put him down on the sideline like that. Could be any one of those.
I'm sure he's itching to get back in there, and maybe watching it like that even gives you more motivation to want to be back in the action.
Absolutely. He's dying right now. Just like any player who's not playing and you're standing there. The season is 16 games, and at one game is like 10 baseball games if you compare it to a 162-game schedule. You're dying. You work to play, and when you don't get those opportunities, it's just eating them alive, I'm sure of it.
All right, we will stay tuned. And now, let's see, we got a Monday night game today, Green Bay at Chicago. Most everybody likes Green Bay in that game. The Lions are going to travel to Green Bay next week. They get the Packers on the short sale, but I don't think they've done much winning. I don't know if the game's in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's in Milwaukee or up at Lambeau. But in any case, they've lost 22 on the road now. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and we'll keep in touch.
Michael, they haven't won in Green Bay since I've played. That's how long it's been, 1991.
Okay,
So
well, there you
a
go.
long time.
Don't bet against the streak is what they say on that one. Might as well keep Matthew in the box and maybe a week or two later, but we'll see. Thank you very much for the chat.
Hey, thank you, Michael Patrick, and have a great day.
You too. Ken Dallafior, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan.